Welcome to Season 1, Episode 36 of Digital Dissection, where we take a closer and possibly unnecessary look at our favorite properties. Today we're slowing down some French music, taking some slumber-inducing drugs, and going on a level or two deeper as we talk Christopher Nolan's 2010 blockbuster Inception. Are we back from the dream world yet? We're not sure, but we're having a great time.
And just in case you've fallen one level too deep and managed to get to this podcast by accident and have no clue how you got here, maybe you can try searching first by typing in Digital Dissection, a nerd podcast, wherever it is that you choose to listen to podcasts. And perhaps you're not following podcast websites. You can instead find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even a blog that we keep by searching at Digital Dissect 1 or Digital Dissection podcast. Our social media sites do share some more pop culture and a sweet meme or two, as well as current information. Should be fun.
Do we have like an outline or anything, or are we winging it over here?
Well, we never truly wing anything, but this is a celebration, of the film Inception by Christopher Nolan.
You may have heard of it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Small indie pick. I know that.
Yeah, we all remember
flick, yeah. Mm-hmm.
that little one. All right.
All night, Matt's been going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the year was 2010. Coming off the heels of The Dark Knight, we ended up getting a little film called Inception by Christopher Nolan. And for some, Christopher Nolan was, only attached to a couple of films that, that had some notoriety up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly only knew him from the Dark Knight movies because I am just a comic book geek. So, yay, Batman. Speaking of, what this movie has, quite a few Dark Knight alumni hanging out in it too.
Sure do.
Mm-hmm. You've got Bane himself, Tom Hardy's hanging out in here.
Scarecrow.
Yeah, Scarecrow. Yes.
Sorry.
Don't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
Yes.
Jordan. Oh my God, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I can't even say my own name.
Yes.
Hanging out here.
Nightwing.
JGL himself.
Mm-hmm. Michael Caine hanging out too.
Oh yeah, Michael Caine.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name, but I know she was Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh,
and
she's
and she is the, I guess, kind of a antagonist in this movie.
Her name is Marion Cotillard.
Yes.
Otherwise, as we mentioned in an earlier episode, Marion Collard Greens, because it's easier for me to remember.
Yay for mnemonic devices.
Woohoo!
Well, the other thing too about this movie, you've got Ken Watanabe, who plays Saito or Sato. It's always hard for me to remember exactly how to pronounce, but I mean he was also an alumni of Batman Begins, playing the stand-in Ra's al Ghul.
This is true, and we all were waiting. I mean, at least I was waiting in this movie for him to actually just see two people ready to throw down, and for someone to go and try and stop those two people, and he just pulls them aside and says, "No, let them fight."
Yeah. Yes. God, the amount of memes that could come out of these people. Rounding out the cast, we've actually got Tom Berenger, who a lot of folks had almost forgotten existed.
Including Tom Berenger. He forgot he was there.
I'm in this?
Oh, what? Oh, shit. Okay. Well, let's make a motion picture, kids.
Oh, man. Of course, we mentioned Scarecrow, Cillian Murphy.
Yes.
And then we have the late Pete Postlewaite, who plays Maurice Fisher, his father in this movie, which I love that dude. It's unfortunate we lost him a few years ago, but unfortunately, some of the old folk in this movie are definitely getting old.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
See, when, God, when did this come out? Like 2011?
2010.
10. Oh, off by a
I
year.
think we already stated that, Joe.
I mean, attention to detail is not my specialty.
Like it might have
Just
been
here
one
for
of the
banter.
first things Mark said.
Admittedly, was definitely rewatching the Dream Little Bigger scene while he was doing the intro there.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Because,
what?
yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
It's my favorite little bit of the movie.
It's a fun little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, Tom Hardy never lets anyone down in this movie. So go Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. He's going at 11 the whole time.
Yeah, it's very true. He's doing his best Rick Astley throughout this entire film. You know, this movie, kind of going back to 2010 though, it did kind of come out of nowhere. Seemingly came out of nowhere because you've got Christopher Nolan making Batman movies, as we've mentioned. You know, he's coming off of The Prestige, which was in I think 2006 or 2005, in that area. And you know, so he's really, for a lot of folks, okay, I'm just going to whittle it down, like they didn't really know much about him. So when Inception comes out, it kind of blows everybody away because it's this, you know, very cerebral, deeply rooted movie. And obviously it's not nearly as I don't know if you want to call it like high flying as a Batman film.
Yeah.
But oddly enough though, he actually had this idea since he was 16 years old.
Really, that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Chelsea, Joe, think about what you were doing at 16 years old.
Let's see.
No.
Not a whole lot. Definitely high school. I think that was the year I started playing golf because
Big year.
I got kicked off of my baseball team. And by not kicked off, I quit.
You were invited to leave the team?
I was. Well, I mean, I was invited to sit on the bench because I was missing practices and going to driver's ed instead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You were promoted to fan, is what we call.
Pretty much. Yep. They're like, sir, there's a special place called the Pine Pony, and it needs to be watched.
Oh
and you're our
God.
man.
Oh my God.
Well, hey, this was no Pine Pony of a movie, okay? For a movie that kind of comes out of nowhere, literally, it's like a play on Inception. Like it just becomes this thing, okay? For 2010, it ended up pulling in $836.8 million at the box office.
Ooh.
Just a few.
I mean, that's good money like now and age. Like, yeah, like that's solid.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy you guys said that, Joe, because we're finally bringing it back. Yes. When adjusted for inflation, this film in 2021 dollars brought in $1,049,826,833.68.
And you could add like 7 more zeros and you'd have it made in yen.
Oh, totally.
So
Absolutely.
like big money here. And I like to point out that I definitely accounted for inflation with the Turbo Express last week. The $551 handheld console back in 1989.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad it's back. We're bringing inflation back.
Oh, we did, and honestly, that's kind of the theme of this movie. It's a movie that once again we've mentioned. He had the idea when he was 16 years old. He originally pitched this movie in 2002, and insisted that he not have someone else assist him with writing the actual bones of the script. Like he set out and said, "No, I want this to be my original idea. I will bring the studio in once we've got funding. You guys can come in and help me, you know, carve it up a little bit. But for now, I want this to be my baby." All right. So a couple of things that didn't actually make it to the screen, though. This was actually envisioned as a horror movie originally.
Huh.
I mean, I don't know. I can kind of see that, I guess. It has some like dark tones to it. I could see it being like a psychological thriller more than like a stab 'em up.
Yeah, and I mean, you do have like whenever they are in the dream too long, someone does come along to try killing them.
That is
Pretty consistently.
true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, really, it's only missing is the like the Friday the 13th, screeching sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine if they had that at just inopportune times of that movie.
Oh,
Like they just play whenever they try waking up.
oh yeah,
Oh God.
yeah. Like Dom Cobb just got out of the dream space, and he's got like a wicked shit he's got to take, right? Like because I was holding this in before I went into the dream. Imagine how bad it was after 21 hours. So he's like sitting down, and then all of a sudden you hear that the cow. He's like, son of a bitch,
not again.
God damn it. And then Christopher Nolan was like, yeah, let's not make this a horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
Also, let's not make this a movie where my main character takes a wet shit either. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, they took that one right off right off. They just erased it. All right? That's why you don't write these scripts in pen. You do it in pencil.
And always good to have another set of eyes look over it before the studio gets a hold of it.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
How married are we to this steamy shit part? I don't know if that's going to track.
It might track, but not in the way that we want it to. Yeah. Well, I guess for the folks that are sitting, listening to this right now and going, okay, you guys have somehow not talked about anything relating to the plot of this film now.
Very little. Very little.
I mean, we do that on purpose sometimes.
Yeah, we layer.
Yeah, but in this case, we have been very good about our spoiler warnings, and now that we do the timestamps, which for like the two of you that actually see the timestamps, this is our point where we're going to say we're going to spoil the shit out of this. Okay.
Yeah, but just before that, you're going to see a timestamp about timestamps.
Damn right you are. Yeah, we're going to spoil this like grandparents with a fresh new grandchild. So seriously, this is going to be. We're gonna spoil it because there's no way to talk about this movie without spoiling it.
Nope.
And let's be honest, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it did come out 11 solid years ago.
Yes.
11 years ago, 2 years of which we've been in a pandemic. It's on all the streaming services.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
no excuses.
No excuses. Well, who wants to take a crack at explaining kind of the theme of this movie? And starting off with it, I mean, who wants to tackle that beast?
I will. And here's the theme: if you are going to be an architect, or you're going to pay attention to detail, because this movie is tons of little details, you better make sure you get the goddamn carpet right, because that will fuck up the whole plan. That shit better not be like a cotton thing. It better no. It better be wool, because you hate it because it always makes you itch and sneeze. Get the damn details right, or you're off the team. And we're replacing it with Elliot Page.
I was gonna say I hate polyester. Okay, you can't. It doesn't breathe. Okay,
not at all. But it is eternal.
Cotton man.
Yeah. Hey, I need it. Okay, I need that breathing technology. Yeah, this is really kind of a cool setting for a movie, because we've got a couple things going on here. For one, this is like the hidden antagonist of Inception. Okay, so we've got our main character. His name is Dom Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. The poor dude has lost his wife, unfortunately. She commits kind of like super suicide.
Yeah.
She kills the shit out of herself.
And I mean, should I give that away?
Yeah,
Why?
you can
the
give
whole
it
thing?
away.
I
Give
mean,
it away.
It's
Give
pretty
that
much
shit away.
Leo's fault. And which goes into like, I guess, like the whole plot of the movie is that, can you plant an idea in someone's head to the point where they don't realize that you're the one who done it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The street is folding.
Yeah, that's the idea of Inception, though. I mean, it's eloquently explained that if you tell somebody don't think about elephants, then they will be thinking about elephants usually.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the ideas that you get in your head are things that someone else has told to you, which is why it's impossible rule that thing out as or actually to accept it as your original thought, unless you do some mental gymnastics. But yeah, I mean, it's the truth. And so, yeah, that's really the kind of the crux of this whole thing, is that we have a man who's been very, very much shattered by the death of his wife, and due to some technology that the military didn't want to use or developed, and then decided, you know what, we don't need to go into our dreams and do our combat simulations there. We'll keep doing that in the real world.
Yeah, because that's where real people fight, not in your dream fighting.
Yeah. Did they ever actually name what the dream technology was based off of? Because there's like an apparatus in a suitcase, and then you quote unquote jack into it, and then you're there. You're in the dream world.
It looks like a time machine that someone built in the 1980s that wasn't really a time machine, and that if you would have talked to your uncle first, you'd realize it wouldn't have worked.
I mean, I'm sold. I don't want to. I don't want to accidentally electrocute my crotch. So
no. That's why you go. That's why you go to Uncle Rico first.
That's the last thing you want to do.
Well, let's talk about this reality. All right. So we've obviously got the reality that we live in, and we've talked about the streaming technology that is being used in a way to extract information from people's subconscious. And so utilizing the dream world and multiple different levels of dreams, which we come to find out, is that while you're dreaming, you can also dream again.
Yes.
And if you want to order another dream, guess what? It's on the menu. You can get another dream. You can go another layer. You can go deeper.
Yep.
So one thing that's cool about the dream level, okay? They kind of talk about the loose math of this. So 10 hours of reality time, okay? We're talking the top level, all right? The first level of the dream world would basically mean that's about 8.3 days. The second level would be 5.47 months. And the third dream level would be 182 years over that same 10 hours of reality. So you can imagine, if we're using multiple layers to build our deception, it's a lot of time.
That's a slippery slope.
Very. And starting to think that Christopher Nolan just has an unbelievable hard-on for time dilation, because that was also what happened in Interstellar. Which, I mean, the science checks out for an Interstellar, at least. I mean, to a degree. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say, like, I calculated how long the time dilation should have been when they were in proximity to the black hole versus what was going on Earth, because, to quote Barbie, math is hard. And,
oh my God.
But at least the idea was right. The math could be off. I don't know. Great time, though.
I mean, I think what I kind of got stuck in here for a bit was the fact that this movie is so interwoven in a lot of different ways. Some folks have talked about on the top 10 list here about how different numbers appear at different times throughout the movie. Specifically, if you look at Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he has a set of loaded die that lets him know, like the totems. We'll just explain it while we're at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
When folks go from the real world into the dream world, they bring what's called a totem with them, and only that person knows the value of their totem, whether it's a weight, whether it's appearance, whatever that object should be doing normally. That's what helps tether them to reality. And so talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he has a loaded die with him, and the face that you normally see is the 6 side of his die, and so the number 6 just appears throughout a lot of the dream that he ends up hosting. But yeah, that was the part of it where the movie kind of starts off, is we're introduced to the idea of the architect, as you mentioned, and their role in building out the dreamscape here. Who wants to take a shot at explaining the architects of the dream world trying to extract information?
I mean, basically, you kind of just get into this other person's dream and insert yourself there like you're supposed to be there, so that they think it's all business as usual. This seems nice. And you keep doing things that you think they should be doing, and eventually you can get them to confess things to you or share stuff with you, like personal information that maybe only they know. And then you get out
That's right.
Got the goods. Corporate espionage. Boom.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're talking about that good old kick that gets us out of the dream world, because we're in it. How do we get out of the dream world without pissing our pants?
Mm-hmm.
We need something that helps bring us back.
That's where the steamy shit was going to come in.
Yeah.
How do we get out of this level? Hey, let me tell you.
I've got an idea.
Got something to try this time. Yeah. That's one of the coolest things about this movie, though, is the idea of kicking yourself out of the dream, whether it's done through, well, the most convenient way, which is basically killing yourself.
One
Fortunately,
shot to the head.
Yeah,
Done.
I was gonna say, for me, it's like drink a glass of whole milk and I'm waking up. Boom, I'm good. But yeah, the idea of the kick, I thought was kind of cool to help bring you out of the dream world. And the way that people know the kick is coming, though, was one of those really cool layered things about this film. Now, does anyone know the actual name of the song that plays, before our characters are essentially kicked out of the dream?
This is gonna kill me because I know that Hans Zimmer uses that song, he slows it down to a much slower speed for I think the main theme of this movie, and it is killing me. It's
not a chart topper.
It's not a chart topper, but it's French, isn't it?
It is.
It's French. Balls.
It's fine. I know what it is. I asked the questions knowing the answers, unfortunately. Kind of like Alex Trebek here.
I mean, that's really good.
Better, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, because imagine if you didn't know the answer, you're like, oh, well, this conversation is now going to be much shorter than I thought because no one knows the answer to this question.
Well, the song itself is called Non je ne regrette rien, which means in English, no, I don't regret anything. And it was performed by Edith Piaf, who actually was I remember this. Marion Cotillard actually depicted her in a film where I think she either won an Academy Award or people just loved her performance.
The layers just keep building in this movie.
Well, it was to the point where Christopher Nolan actually considered saying, no, let's change the song because Marion's too close to it. But to your point, Joe, I mean, Hans Zimmer took basically two notes from the song and just distorted them and just pulled them way down. And it ended up appearing as those loud booms that you hear throughout the movie, and then mixed into the score, into the soundtrack. I mean, they got a lot of legwork out of the royalty for that damn thing. Oh man,
which might as well. I mean, you're paying for it. Just use it constantly.
Yeah, it could
have been a doorbell at some point. It's just there.
I mean, for me, it was a knee tapper. I find myself singing those notes in the shower. Just putting the 2-in-1 man shampoo into my hair and and just sitting there going, wow.
I mean, you can't beat the value of the 2-in-1.
No,
shampoo and conditioner in one bottle. Why would you need anything else?
Yeah, shampoo, conditioner. You can even, strip a boat with it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Simultaneously dries your skin and moisturizes it. It does both. Keeps it nice and even right in the middle.
Oh my God.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about Dom Cobb and Mal for a moment, because we talked about how Mal obviously commits suicide and they pin the murder on Dom. So Dom has basically been on the run for years and trying to get back to his family. When I looked at Mal for the first time, I was an art history nerd, okay? And early on in the movie, when they're in Saito's house, right? They're trying to do the extraction. They're basically just dream level 2, right? Well, one of the first times we actually see Mal, did any of you look behind Mal on her first appearance on the wall? Because there's a very distinct painting that's there. And I was sitting there being an art history nerd, geeking out. But did you guys see the painting? Are you familiar with it?
I am not.
Was it the woman in the pearl earring? Was that the one that was hanging out back there?
No.
Big old pearl? No. Okay.
No, I don't think there'd be a way for me to somehow get meaning from that.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe you really like that head wrap. It meant a lot to you.
No, it was actually much deeper. So this was the painting that was sitting there was by Francis Bacon, and it was actually a painting of his lover at that time, whose name was George Dyer. So this would have been back in the 60s. He painted several images of George Dyer, but the reason why this one was important to put in there, it's a favorite of Christopher Nolan's as well, but this painting of Dyer has like a massive hole in the middle of his face, and it's incredibly distorted. Okay, so in the notes for this, we'll share this photo that y'all can look up. But when I was watching it right away, obviously having never seen Inception, knew nothing about it, when you see this photo or this painting, it immediately gives away that something's kind of wrong. Okay, so me being the art history nerd, I'm looking at this going, oh man, this is foreshadowing. God damn it.
But I mean, of all the foreshadowing that can't be done, that's not that bad.
No, but like the fact that she was standing right in front of the painting, I'm like, okay, what does she do? Did she kick puppies? Like,
oh,
does she pick her teeth with like stuff that's just at the table? Like, what's going on with her?
Just the most heinous of offenses.
Oh god, she eats her peas one pea at a time.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah. So immediately though, that's how I kind of figured this is my kind of movie at the same time, because yeah, there's so many things that are being layered, not just in the mechanics of the movie itself, but also just the detail. So Joe, this had to have been a nightmare for you, seeing all of these details over detail. But
it was hard to see the detail within the detail. Too much.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Speaking of, this is going to be like trivia corner for everybody tonight, but okay, so when we first see Dom meeting up with Michael Caine, they're in like a university setting, right? We've been talking about layers a couple times here. Does anyone know what the significance of the room was that he walked into, where Michael Caine goes, you know, I can think out here as opposed to the broom closet they have me in? Do we know what's important about that room?
It is 100% real wood.
Rich
every bit
mahogany.
of it. None of it pine. None of it pine.
Ugh, pine. Trash of wood.
You know, you're probably both right, but this was a very specific room in the University of College London. Okay. It was the architecture school where Christopher Nolan actually met his wife.
Oh,
cool.
That's sweet.
Emma Thomas. Yeah, and they would go on to work together on several films. So it's you know, a nice little romance story that's woven in there too. Fortunately, he was not framed for her murder, and she's still alive and well. So yeah, much better romance there. Anyway, though, we did kind of get away from this. Okay, we talked about like hidden antagonists back in like our coverage of Ghostbusters, right? Well, Inception also has an underlying antagonist in layers. We're not just talking about Mal. We're talking about COBOL Engineering, who Dom Cobb worked with, right? That's who he was trying to initially extract the information out from Saito on, and obviously he didn't deliver. So what are they going to do? They're going to send people after to kill him, and which is one of the most anxiety-inducing moments in this entire film, where he's in Morocco and he's got to climb through that little tiny wall. I mean, that to me, I can't watch that part of the movie.
Are you sure? Because there were a time when you got stuck in a wall and you thought you were really funny when you were in the wall.
No. There's nothing funny about how small that little gap is that he has to squeeze through.
Yeah. I mean,
don't know.
I don't know what the term is for being afraid of small spaces, but I know that if you're called that, hey, I've never even looked at another guy like that, Chelsea.
Oh.
Yay, Ninja Turtles reference. Yep. It's just movie references within one big movie reference this week.
I mean, that's kind of the spirit of what we're doing here. You know,
it works.
It did.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, claustrophobia, not fun. being cramped in the tiny places.
Well, here's what some movies struggle a lot with, okay? And especially when you have a movie that doesn't have 3 hours to tell a tale, right?
Mm-hmm.
What Inception does really well when Dominic Cobb has to go from this, or sorry, I filled out his full name. He might just be Dom Cobb for all I know.
Be Dom Cobb.
Yeah, but
really
ends up going to
family.
Yeah. Well, they end up actually doing more character development in a period of maybe like 10 minutes that some action films can't do in their entirety. You know, I'm going to, absolve any Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, from character development. But this isn't that kind of movie, okay?
No, this ain't Bloodsport, kids.
No, it's not. But it does a really good job of building this little community out of people who clearly know what they're doing in the dream realm.
Mm-hmm.
And whether this is the folks that know how to inundate you with, they show you how the drugs work and how people routinely go into the dream world that no longer can handle reality. But I really love Tom Hardy's character of Eames in this. Because clearly this guy is talented in the dream realm, and you get just this vibe off of him very early on, right? Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but did you guys get like a feeling from Eames that he's like the perfect kind of scoundrel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely has that going, is that he's a gentleman's, what do I want to say with this, dick. He's a gentleman's dick.
Is that just Tom Hardy in general, though?
It could be. Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely a swagger though. And what I think it lends to really well here is that, like, yeah, it's almost like the effect of John Wick, and how you have this network of assassins, in hitmen that they're just out there.
Yeah.
But they do a really good job of building out this community without even having to do much. And so obviously Eames is a big part of that. But going back to, Michael Caine's character at the university, this dude is literally looking at students and trying to place them into this network.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like secretly, right? Like the kids don't know that's what they're signing up for, but he's like, no. You'd be really good at this.
Which I think they did a really good job with Elliot Page,
Mm-hmm.
in this role, where Ariadne is the name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one of those, like, if you're like a one of those folks that loves Greek mythology, you see the name Ariadne and immediately the red flags are going up. Does anyone know why that is significant? I'm going to hit you guys with all of these questions.
No, but I would like to know that, because I just knew of it. Like, there's a reference in a Gundam series to an Ariadne fleet, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool sounding name. Never really looked into it, so it's cool to know, I guess, that it's a Greek mythology thing.
Chelsea, we're going to let you have the ability to answer as well. It looks like Joe is going to punt in this scenario.
Yes, and I'm also going for the strategic double punt.
It's very odd that I punted to Chelsea, she caught the ball and she kicked it right back. It's like, oh. Right now, John Madden is going like, what? You don't do that in football.
Just a game of punty punt.
Got a couple of power moves here. Fortunately, that's why we're here to move along. So, is anyone familiar with King Minos?
Oh yeah,
had himself a labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Within that labyrinth, there is a half man, half bull looking thing called the Minotaur.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Minotaur.
Yes, I do recall killing both of these individuals as Kratos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a little homie named Theseus who was trying to get his way through that labyrinth once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
And who would help him through that little thing? By a lady the name of Ariadne. Now, what's really the mind-blowing part of this, okay? I've spent some time with this movie, clearly, and when she draws the initial mazes or puzzles for Dom to solve, right? Like that's what Dom says. Design a puzzle in 2 minutes that takes me 1 minute to solve. Well, she fails the first 2 times, right? They're too simple. But then the third one that she draws is actually like a circle with a maze drawn within it. And for those who zoomed in, had that high definition, it would actually be the exact same maze that was used in King Minos's Labyrinth.
Oh, cool.
Oh, very cool.
I'm
But
telling
also
you, dude.
unoriginal. Way to go. I mean, you should
Yeah,
have
I
solved
mean,
that one
like,
better. Mhm.
they don't have to rewrite the whole wheel, I guess. Reinvent. I can't talk.
Well, it's once again,
Mhm.
this movie is clearly thinking hard,
Yes.
Yes, it is.
which lends the question. Okay, like once they get in, once they or actually, I should even correct myself. We were talking about COBOL engineering for a moment there, and we kind of got away from it. COBOL engineering was hopefully going to be Dom Cobb's way to get back to his kids, which we assume are in like the United States or something, right?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not Europe. I feel like Europe would be much
No.
more relaxed about this.
I feel like, well, they're in New York for a bit.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that Dream New York?
No, they're in the early running. They're clearly in some kind of metropolitan area in the United States.
Yeah.
So, so then once he runs away and everything, but like the way that I always saw it was that he's working with COBOL engineering to somehow either gain enough influence, earn enough money, buy his way back in to get to the United States. Well, unfortunately, that opportunity dissipates pretty quickly into the movie. So, of course, our friend Saito, is it Saito? I always mispronounce his name. I think it's Saito. Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saito
Works
ends
for
up
me.
being like the coolest partner of all time. This dude's just like, yep, I got a way for you to get back in there. I just need you to take out my biggest rival.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the thing that can't be done in session
Mm-hmm.
is truly talked about, and they bring in this awesome team of folks to try and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something I'll actually tell you all about that I did actually research. Now, who's ever heard of the name Deidre Barrett before?
Was that the nice lady who paid us in advance before she became a dog?
Like the enthusiasm? Not quite. But she's a Harvard psychologist, actually.
Okay,
And
I was close.
what was really cool about there's an op-ed she wrote. She actually gives a lot of credit to some aspects of this movie that most of us would just look at and go, okay, it's just entertainment, whatever. But she actually said there's some merit given to what the brain does in a moment like the Kick, where Leonardo DiCaprio is dropped into the tub full of water. She said our brains operate in a very similar fashion. So when you see the water flowing into the dream that he's in, she goes, yeah, that same thing would happen typically with the brain. The majority of the time, the unconscious brain is just in a logical, rambling and disjointed plot going on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which for those who've listened to the show, know that's a lot of what we do here.
That's how we're operating.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, makes sense. Like when you think about it, like how many of you have ever had a dream where you are waking up because you're falling or you quickly slid off of something and suddenly instead of like hitting the ground, you just instantly like fly up from where you were laying down. Like,
Or like maybe
Yeah.
you really have to pee,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
wake up and oh no.
ooh, I made a mistake.
Hey, which oddly enough, the idea of stimuli impacting dreams does end up having that exact same thing happen in this movie. Someone has a little too much to drink on the plane, and guess what? That dream is very, very moist.
What? Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. No. So that's where things kind of go awry here, though, right?
Mhm.
Within the movie, they're trying to extract information specifically, or plant information, I should say, so that Saito's rival basically decides to dissolve his deceased father's empire, right?
Mhm.
And so the idea of what happens based off of the experiences of Dom here, as he can no longer be an architect, right? Like he was one of the best in the business at doing this, and he no longer can, because of this heart-wrenching relationship with Mal.
Mhm.
What did everybody think about the first dream level that they go to, what we mentioned, the moist level, if we want to call it that. What did we think about, that part of the movie and how the pandemonium just kind of takes over?
Well, no one likes a water level, like ever. So just to make sure, like, on the right track, so you say like the first dream level, that's not. I think might be thinking of the wrong part of the movie, because I was thinking of like when he and Ariadne like go into like the oh shit level of like, this is where you go because you've passed through too many levels and you go to this level right before you actually die. But that's not the level you're referring to, right?
That's like the end of the movie.
That's
Yeah,
the end
Joe,
of the movie.
that if we're talking
I
about
have-
details, that is like the very end of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a total like, I guess, disclaimer, I definitely read books by just reading the first chapter, the middle chapter, and the end chapter. So
How do you
I just
determine the
mixed
middle
it up.
chapter?
Oh, I mean, you just look at the total number of chapters, you divide by 2.
Oh, you're dividing. You're not.
I-
So this is the science. You're not just
Oh,
cracking it
no,
open and
not at all.
this looks
Mm-mm.
like the middle.
Exactly. And if dividing by 2 doesn't come out evenly, you just round up or down,
right.
depending on the scenario. So, well, like the first level, isn't that's the one where like they kick Leo into the bathtub, right?
So when it came to the dream world,
Mhm.
and we're focusing on the Fishers now, right? Like, so the family that were they're basically trying to help dissolve the family empire, right? The first level here is where it's raining, and then suddenly we have a train that just barrels through everything,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So the idea of the rich elite in this universe, they're paying to protect their subconscious with literally like armed subconscious.
Yeah.
Now the train kind of barreling through it, though, Dom mentions this several times until it's fully explained that he doesn't like trains.
No.
Right
there with him.
It's pretty clear that, yeah, the subconscious can do some pretty crazy things, especially if you've got some deep-seated mental issues, but it can also fire back at you. And so once we realize this shit show is about to get a lot worse, suddenly our friend Sato gets shot. And so I thought that was really interesting about this idea of weaponizing your subconscious to protect your dreams at the same time, because that's what Fisher, Cillian Murphy's character, is able to do. And unfortunately, our friend Joseph Gordon-Levitt didn't pick up on that part of the research.
No, he missed that, and it was his job, and Tom Hardy was very mad about it. No. Leo got mad at him over this, right?
Yes,
He fucked up. Yeah, it wasn't Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I'm actually concerned for you as to what movie you watched, because it does not seem like you know.
I'm all over the board.
Yeah,
that's why I keep throwing in other movie references just to sound like witty, but really I'm grabbing at straws here.
Well, we won't be the first people to be confused, I'm sure, over the plot.
Yep, like there'll be several reviews for this episode where people will say like, I thought I was listening to Inception, and then for some reason it was the first Ninja Turtles movie. Shortly after, we got to What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and we're not sure how we bridged that gap.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, really, I think what shines here is the fact that there is so much conflict between characters, because even Christopher Nolan mentions this himself, that when Leonardo DiCaprio took the role for this, that's when the movie really started to become more personal, right? Because it could just be a throwaway action movie, right? I mean, so many of the details here could be swept under a rug. Before Leo was involved, they were trying to get Brad Pitt or Will Smith to play Dom Cobb. Now, as far as how much of this we can credit to Leo or not, the idea of struggle and him just tearing into Joseph Gordon-Levitt here, once they realize, oh shit, this subconscious is like, militant.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was one of the biggest strengths of this movie, was seeing like just how, like, I don't know, how fiery these people were with each other despite their history. Because you can, like we've talked about, this is clearly like almost like a fraternity of people.
Mm-hmm.
that know this industry and know what they're doing.
But it's high stakes.
Very.
You gotta get your shit together.
Mm-hmm. It's a goddamn Catalina wine mixer in there. And also got to point out that, like, if it's true that, like, Will Smith passed this up, it's like he passed up The Matrix and Inception. Whoops.
Maybe it was just too complicated.
Maybe,
you know?
maybe it's too much. And also, this came at a time where the golden age of Will Smith movies was over, where we got not only a great movie, but a freaking great soundtrack with the first lead track or title track by Will Smith himself. And if you do not recall such times or do not live through them, I'm just sad for you.
Maybe that's the reason why he didn't take this movie. That he wanted to do an original soundtrack for it, and they wouldn't let him.
I mean, I'd turn it down. I mean, if you can't do another Wild Wild West, where the best part of that movie is, in fact, the song called Wild Wild West, what's the point?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like I could see Will Smith in this role. Just because he brings a lot of like comedy to his serious action roles still, and there's just no place for that in Dom's character, I don't think.
That's true. I can see that, because everything, like, even like iRobot and Will Smith is a pretty, I don't know, again, like, he's got a pretty serious flaw built into his character that haunts him, and still very comedic throughout.
Because every character he plays is still a little bit just Will Smith.
Oh yeah, it's got to be Will Smith in there. But I've definitely stolen his "quit cussing, you're not good at it," and go home with students like, "Quit cussing, you're not good at it."
There you go.
Yep.
You guys are kind of bringing up a point here that I didn't know if we would get to, and that's the idea of this allegory that the actors involved in this movie, or rather the roles they're playing, do actually kind of mimic creating movies themselves. And so Christopher Nolan mentions that, like, he didn't intend for this to happen, but it just kind of did. But if we need it blatantly stated here, the characters themselves do relate to important aspects of filmmaking. So for Dom Cobb or Leonardo DiCaprio, he basically plays the role of the director. Arthur, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt, plays the role of the producer. He's the guy that kind of keeps things going and ensures that the operations continue.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got Ariadne, who is basically the set designer, ensuring that everything looks the way that it should. Eames plays the role of the actor, right? He can take on any role that he wants. And then Cillian Murphy as Fisher basically plays the audience because he's along for the ride. And so,
all right.
So it does, once you kind of watch it through that lens, it does kind of take on what should be metaphorical, but ends up being just as realistic as it could be if it weren't a fiction. I mean, when I look to Leonardo DiCaprio being a director, I don't see this movie being what it is without him. Even though it's Christopher Nolan's show, like, Leo DiCaprio brought, I think, the right mentality, the right intensity, and fills that role as best I think anybody could. And so I mean, the next time you watch this movie, kind of look at it through that lens. See what you think about that. But once again, let's go back to the idea though of the dream worlds here and why they would be pissed off that somebody would have been shot. Because we've talked about the different levels involved and how time passes when you're in the dream world, right? Well, we have to throw that out the window because that was based off of what kinds of drugs they were using to induce themselves. And so part of the issue with this was that to give themselves enough time to plant the idea into Fisher's head, they needed to be there for a lot longer than normal. So we don't know what this chemical makeup is, but all we know is that if you end up going down to the subconscious space, there's a chance you could be there for thousands of years before you come back. So that's why the stakes are a little bit higher than they would normally be, even beyond this little 50-year stay that Cobb and Mal go through when they're down there. But I guess what we'll do here, since we kind of talked about the dream levels and how they work, And we are going to once again talk about the spoiler of whether or not at the end of this movie we're back in the real world. That's really the question that gets asked a lot. Because, well, I mean, how do you really know that you're back to reality or not? That's kind of the question we've been asking ourselves for quite a long time, not just in this movie.
Well, I think the way you can tell is purely because of gravity. When you snap back to reality, it's probably because you choked.
No.
8 Mile. But okay, I seriously note. I think he's awake. I think he's awake at the end of the movie.
I think he's awake at the end of the movie too.
There are a few things, yeah.
Although,
yeah. What's your reasoning? What's your reasoning for that? I want to hear it.
I don't know. Honestly, now I'm wavering because this freaking top, right? The top, man. The totem's all fucked up. It's still spinning. I think he's dreaming still. I switch. I go back.
Well,
I change my answer. I would prefer him to be awake because, happy endings.
Getting one in this day and age is kind of a win.
Yeah.
Because we like dark movies now.
I'm thinking, I think no.
I don't know. I think it is because like even if you go strictly for the totem, like when you see it in the whole movie, like it consistently does make the same noise. Whereas in this time, like it's the only time you hear it waver, like it's actually slowing down.
Right. So when it spins continuously, that means he's dreaming. And when it wobbles, it means he's awake.
Yeah, it would, because like everything else about the totem is supposed to remain constant. So it would bring him back. So it should never stop spinning as long as he's dreaming or act like it's about to slow down.
Okay. And it does wobble. And that's why I was crisscrossed. So now I'm going to switch back again. He's
okay. Another thing I'd like to point out is that this movie does a very, very like good job of saying like, when you're dreaming, you're just there. You're in the middle of the dream already. You never have any knowledge of how you got there. You're just there. And like before he gets back to his children, like there's clear transportation from one spot to the next. I think it's flying back to there, right? So there's a clear, we know he's there because we know how he actually got back. He's not just suddenly at home.
Now, for those that aren't familiar, because I know we talked about the idea of totems earlier, but so Dom Cobb's totem that helps remind him of reality that he's in is this little top that he spins. Very early on in the movie, he puts a gun to his head and spins the top, waiting for it to behave differently so that he can truly come back to reality. So I appreciate that both of you kind of went that way, because at the end of the film, he spins the top, but he walks away from it. He doesn't even try to see if it wobbles like you both noticed, right?
Yeah.
He just walks towards his kids. So some could say it's irrelevant whether or not he's back.
Like he doesn't even care.
No, it doesn't care. He's finally just accepting seeing his kids.
Yeah, he's accepted it. He's he's back and he's with his kids. So who gives a shit if the reality is real or not? Well, here's what I'm going to do to the two of you to kind of help mind fuck the shit out of you, because the top was never his totem.
No, it's his wedding ring.
It was Mal's totem.
It was Mal's totem. So how did he know at any point whether or not it weighed what it should have and behaved the way that it should have?
She explained it to him.
Yeah, but even she locked that secret away, right?
But didn't he find it?
He does find it later, right? But she locks it away, and they were down there for 50 years.
Long time.
So at that point, who's to even say what's real and what isn't, right? The totem at that point to me is useless. Whatever the totem does, I don't care.
Or maybe over those 50 years, he was able to handle it and just became familiar with it. Or is that not possible because he became familiar with it while in the dream?
He has no frame of reference for its original state. He only knows about what it was in the dream world.
In the dream, yeah.
So that's one reason why I want you guys to feel off balance. Part two of that Have you guys ever seen kids age?
I
I'm
mean,
assuming you
I
have.
mean, I don't
Yeah.
stare at them the whole time, but I do
Yes.
notice a difference.
I'm assuming you have, okay? So Dom Cobb is celebrating at least a couple birthdays away from these kids. I'll say it. Let's just say at least one.
At
But
least.
But the only thing he can remember his kids by is the look of their backs, because that's the only thing that he sees in the dreams anymore, right? Well, if he's been gone for any period of time, I doubt those kids are going to stay the exact same as they were as when he first went into the dream world.
Yeah.
So that's me throwing a wrench in the idea of what's reality and what isn't, because there's no way those kids are the same look. You know, there's no way.
I mean, they
Absolutely
shouldn't.
no.
I mean, that's why like child acting is so difficult, because like you should have a movie for like 8 movies when they're kids, but they just keep on growing. God damn it.
Well, and here's my other point as to why this should actually help or actually give your brain a little more, actually make your brain feel a little more unstable. In the dream world, his children are building a sandcastle on the same beaches that he washes up in at the very end of their mission, where he goes to retrieve Sato from the subconscious that's just kind of doing whatever it wants down there. So earlier in the movie, when he's talking to his children on the beach, they're building a castle, and they said it's supposed to be like the castle that's up on the hill, or the house that's up on the hill, which ends up being Sato's house later on when he falls to the subconscious. So how are his kids having these independent thoughts of things that haven't occurred yet?
I think Leo lost his mind.
Yeah, he's crazy.
I think he's crazy.
Which to me means that maybe this dude's got another layer or two to get back to.
Yikes.
Ugh.
I mean, it's for sure left open to interpretation, right? Like, I mean, it's absolutely left for an optimist to find something optimistic, and for a cynic to find something cynical.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, or for an overweight Filipino man to try and confuse people with. But hey,
mostly that. Mostly that.
Well, I think Christopher Nolan knew exactly what he was doing with this, because he even says he'll never tell.
Right.
He'll never tell.
Or maybe he doesn't even know. Maybe he's crazy.
Maybe, yeah, he was just writing. He's like, fuck, I don't know how to end this.
He's like, I cannot.
You know what? Never mind. We'll stop right here. It'll just be done.
Well, I think that this is the reason why this kind of film is basically living as long as it has in the pop culture space, right? I mean, we've talked about some other properties here that have had waning days, right? Like there's some movies that some folks have probably not even heard about 5 or 10 years down the road. But Inception is one of those few movies in, like, let's just call it like the recent history. It seems like it hasn't gone away. At least that's just my opinion of it. I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. It's fine. It's totally cool.
Okay. It's like, yeah, like references are constant. The Leo eye squinting meme will be eternal, because it's brilliant. And again, like, we just keep trying to like figure out what's happening. Although, speaking of that, like, I thought I heard that Michael Caine like came out in an interview and said that he was told by Nolan that every scene that he is in is meant to be Leo's awake. Like, I swear that was a thing. And like, part of the help that corroborates that too is that, like, again, like, you never actually, you don't know Leo's true totem, because he never fully says it, but it's his wedding ring. Because when you look at it and you go back and you watch it after hearing like what Michael Caine said, you notice that in like all the Michael Caine scenes, or even any scene where he's supposedly awake, he's never wearing his wedding ring. It's even the same like on the plane when they first meet Fisher. He doesn't have his wedding ring on, but whenever he's dreaming, his wedding ring is always there on his ring finger. So, I mean, again, just get more arguments and more layering over like what's actually happening on in this movie, because people are still talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's thought provoking. I mean, Chelsea, before Joe viciously cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to, I guess, make a comment about like just pop culture wise. I mean, even if people aren't constantly still, discussing the different intricacies of the movie, it's still continuing to live by people parodying it all the time. I think it's something that's really fun, and people want to always have their different kind of little spin on, oh shit, are we doing Inception? All right. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I think it's super relevant. People have a lot of fun with it, and I think it makes people think. And people like to freaking create conspiracy over stuff. So this definitely is conspiracy fuel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, okay, so because again, apparently my timeline's completely messed up. Was the South Park Inception episode like years after the fact, or was it? Did that
not really years? It came out pretty well after. Yeah.
Okay.
That one came out still, I think, kind of hot off the tails of the popularity of Inception. I know, Rick and Morty did an Inception episode, which obviously would have been years after the original movie.
And was that episode like they played a video game as like just a person, or is that, maybe I'm thinking of something different?
They have one where they they incept Morty's math teacher to give him a passing grade so that he can keep going on adventures with Rick because he's failing math.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And then they kind of mash it up a little bit with some kind of like Freddy Krueger.
Oh yeah,
that one. Stuff too. Yeah.
Well, Chelsea, there's something that I kind of hinged on when you said that people put their own spin on Inception. And what we've done historically here is we actually go back to some of the reviews of these movies, because I'm just going to, read the room. It seems like we've all enjoyed this movie, right? I'm just looking at Joe's face and Chelsea's face that's not there. What do you like? Just genuinely, did you enjoy this movie or not?
I did. The first time I watched it, like movie theater, I remember everyone. Joe, did we see this movie together?
We did not.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I remember leaving with a group of people and everyone kind of being a little bit mind blown, and you're all talking about it. So at first, I think I really, really liked it. I don't want to say it's one that as time has moved on that I like it less, but as time has moved on, I feel like now I might think it's maybe unnecessarily overly complicated sometimes. But overall, I still like the movie.
Well, that's what's bringing us to one of the reviews of this movie that wasn't so positive.
Oh no.
So yeah, one of the reviews of this movie stated, "The real cause of wonder, though, is why Nolan should have embraced technocratic complexity in the service of such a puny story."
Oh Lord, this keyboard warrior is upset.
Ouch.
Oh yeah. Another one was, "If it's the dreamer whose subconscious fills in the details as the film claims, why the absence of silliness, sex, horror, and general abandon?"
Well, Rick and Morty absolutely touch on that. So,
so he wanted nudity, is what that critic wanted. He's like, why no full frontal nudity?
Why dream if you can't bone?
Well, I can't fight those demands. But here's one of the positives, though. One of the positive reviews was, "Prediction: the market demand for mind-altering substances is about to take a dive. For once Inception takes hold at the cinema, and it surely will, this movie will have its attendees happily dazed for days, possibly weeks, and afterwards." And I think, I could sit here for an hour and probably write something that says the same, but that's what I think really is the lasting legacy of this movie, is that yes, we're still talking about it, unlike other films that have either been reboots or spent 4 times the amount of money to make. And for me, this movie really was an emotional gut punch in a lot of ways. The biggest of it being the song "Time" by Hans Zimmer. which
Mm-hmm.
if you watch the movie, you know the song. It's what the movie ends with. And it's actually mixed into the score throughout the entire movie. So like you're being hit with the emotional weight of that song the entire time. And years later, even I still listen to that song and like fighting back tears every time. it's just that good of a song. So
yeah. Although I mean, it definitely has a completely different feel when someone mashes up YMCA by the Village People with it.
I think that would, wreck any song.
I mean,
Personally.
I think it makes it kind of great.
You kind of like it.
I kind of like it. It's like, wow, you've made the YMCA very moving very suddenly. I was very compelled to go to the Young Men's Christian Association.
Oh.
I really don't want to end on that, but I can't think of a better way to do it.
This is where everyone wakes up on that dumb comment. Just like any good dream, some idiot comes by and ruins it, and you have to wake up. That guy is me.
So Joe, you just tell me whether or not you think that top is still spinning.
I think it may be as wobbly as my memory at points in this podcast, because I definitely screwed a few things up. But I did pull together in the end, just like I think we always do.
What I really love about this movie is that I think Christopher Nolan doesn't really care what ends up happening in the end. And that's kind of where we all spend our time, is debating what's going on with the movie. But I really do think that it keeps it relevant, and it keeps, other folks being interested in it. So if anything, it's just a good marketing tool, and kudos. Hats off to you, Christopher Nolan, for that little work he did in 2010. But, Joe, we are back to do some shout-outs across the Twitterverse.
Yes, to our friends, our
Yes.
neighbors on the internet. We have some
Absolutely.
thanks to give to you people, and we're going to start with none other than Seamus Byrne.
Yes.
I stumbled on the name a little bit. But good old Seamus, yeah, if you recall, we had him when we were talking Ready Player One in our 2-week coverage of that. He is the proprietor of Biteside, and he's something of a journalist in Australia. He just has like minor accolades, like being an editor at CNET, nothing too big. But yeah, great guy. He has his own independent stuff, and just fantastic writer. So if you have not done so already, definitely check Seamus out.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he was voted the top technology journalist, I think, in 2017.
Mhm.
He's won that award, I think, more than once actually. And that episode is one that I continue to look back to fondly, just because of his expertise and how he had something relevant to say about every single piece of technology that you see in Ready Player One. So yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at his Twitter. He's actually got one of the coolest handles where it's just at Seamus.
He just got his name. How rare is that?
Yeah,
it's like impossible in this day and age to get your actual name. That's like us getting at Joe.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Joe's already taken. I don't know by who. Probably some guy named Joe.
Yeah.
But perhaps if I knew a life hacker too and worked for Lifehacker, or perhaps Gizmodo or Kotaku, all places that Seamus has been a managing editor of.
Yeah, seriously. I absolutely want to give a shout out to Seamus, because once again, we had such a great time with him. But speaking of folks that we had a great time with, going even deeper back into our history of this show, as we like to say, in honor of Inception, we're going another layer deeper. We're actually going to be guest spotting with our friends Measuring the Score with Chris and Leslie, who we've mentioned a few times on the show, but it's been a little while. You can find them at Measure the Score. And for those of you who aren't familiar with them, they do cover film scores as well as movie soundtracks and how they come together to make a cohesive product. But
yes.
Yeah, we joined forces yet again, didn't we, Joe?
We did, and I believe we will be gracing their podcast very specially in November.
Yeah, I think just in time for Thanksgiving. We don't want to ruin the announcement, but definitely stay tuned to their Twitter and their social media as well as ours. We'll share it once it comes out.
Yes, measuring the score. Who is at Measure the Score, because Twitter has restrictions.
Just makes it hard to find people. Dang it.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, that's why we're at Digital Dissect 1, but whatever.
Yeah, can't get the full thing in there. So, you get what you get. You don't throw a fit, I suppose. Thanks, Internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, one of our future guests, Stephanie Phillips, who is a writer for DC Comics, she's actually going to be at New York Comic Con this weekend, October 7th through the 10th. So if you are in the New York area and you want to go and see and meet a really, really good, talented writer who is the current head writer for the Harley Quinn line at DC, check her out at New York Comic Con. Go say hi. If you haven't read Harley yet, pick it up. It's a really great story.
Yeah, and tell them Digital Dissection sent you. She might still remember us, I would think. She had a good time.
She had a good time. I hope so.
I mean, she had a good enough time that she actually signed one of Joe's, graphic novels over there. So, I mean, I think we're in probably in good standing with Steph.
I hope so. It's framed on my wall just as yours could be if you see her at Comic-Con this weekend.
Yeah, you can find the extremely talented Stephanie Phillips at Steph_Smash on Twitter. And you can also find, I believe, her next Wonder Woman entry is coming up in November, I want to say. If it's not, I was going to say, if it's not Wonder Woman, then I know there's another project she had coming up in November. So she's got a lot of stuff coming up pretty soon that we're excited to see.
I think it's Sensational Wonder Woman is what she's working on.
Yeah.
So that's it. I believe that's the Wonder Woman title. If not, it is a Wonder Woman title. So if in doubt, just look at Wonder Woman and look for Stephanie Phillips. Yeah.
And you know what? To round out our shout-outs here, I did want to give another shout-out to our friend Kevin the Critic. Because
Kevin.
Dude, you can't mention our coverage of Ready Player One and not talk about Kevin. That was one of those conversations where you have a movie that was based on a book, and then you have the daunting task of making sure that you don't get too deep into either one, right? Like it was a really awesome conversation with a really cool dude. If you haven't checked out Kevin the Critic, I think what's really awesome about his history is that he started off reviewing like children's movies because that's what he had access to at the time, right? But watching his trajectory throughout the years as independent filmmakers have found him, he's also getting early access to other titles now. So like it's really fun and cool to see that journey itself and what he's up to. But I mean, God, he has been reviewing movies since 2005. So he's got something for everybody to read through and check out. And if you've somehow managed to miss the movies that he's reviewing, like, I mean, pretty damn good reviewers. So definite kudos here to Kevin the Critic. And I don't know, I always remember the really, like, almost every episode's fun to record, but I just remember leaving that episode and going like, wow, I had a really good time talking about Ready Player One.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe he has his own website, kevinthecritic.com, right? He's there.
He does,
and
absolutely.
Now that Facebook is indeed back up and running, you can always find him there too. Just look up Kevin the Critic and he'll be around.
Yeah, we always a big fan of folks, Twitter handles. Right now he's going by, I believe Kevin lives in a graveyard.
Oh, very spooky season appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. His handle, of course, is at Kevin_the_critic. But yeah, he's going by Kevin lives in a graveyard, at least until the end of October. But yes.
All right. Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, check those people out. Great folks, and keep coming back to us too. We'd appreciate that. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, especially as we get into some spookier content. We kind of grazed it a little bit with Inception being potentially a horror film at first, right? But it took a different turn.
It did. Quick twist.
Yeah. But yes, stay tuned. We have some much more spookier content on the way with some fun guests and some fun topics. Until next time, keep on dissecting.